Hi friends, it's Walter Zemrock. Today's project is a card that I am making as part of a guest designer spot for artist Bae Grab, and I'll be using her really beautiful new Mermaid fairy kit. And I'll be using some of the stickers, some of the digital papers, not in their entirety, but certain elements of them, as well as the stamp set that comes along with the kit. Let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is to work on the card panel in the background for my card. And to do that, I'm going to be using a piece of Yupo paper as well as some alcohol inks to get a really nice, cool underwater scene onto the background. And that background is going to be mounted onto this beautiful eucalyptus glitter paper. I thought that this was a perfect choice because the green just reminded me of a mermaid when I saw it, and I thought it would be a lot of fun. So I'm going to start first, as I had mentioned, with the alcohol ink background, and I'm going to select my colors, and I'll go through that color palette with you. I'm going to have some navy in some spots for a little bit of darkness in the background. Also going to have some sapphire, some turquoise, and some manganese blue. And when I use alcohol inks, I like to make sure that I'm using the clear blender to make sure that the inks blend together and slide along the card nicely. So I'm just going to put some of that on there. And as I do that, I'm just going to move it around on there. And what's lovely about the Yupo is that it has that it's made for the alcohol inks, and so it slides around and moves as you put the mediums onto it. Okay, I'm going to drop that navy on there. Ooh, sprayed out a little bit faster than I thought it would, but I actually like that. I can work with that. There we go. My navy. And I'm just going to move it around a bit before I add in some more. And where that's accumulating kind of dark, I'm going to add a little bit more of that on there. There we go. Now we can really get that moving. That is a really beautiful bright blue. And that's doing exactly what I wanted right now. Now I'm going to go in for some of the sapphire. Get some of that on there. Put that to the side. I'm going to grab my little blower tool here and get that to move around. Playing with these inks and experimenting, and what I love is you never end up getting the same print twice, which is really, I mean, when you think about it, so cool, because you can give two people the same tools and they will get something very different than what you're likely getting. And I love when you see it spread like that. It's just really, really cool. Now this is where we're going to get some of the green in with the turquoise. And I'm going to put that to the side. And I'm going to come in with my sprayer and just move that around. As this dried, I wanted to go ahead and get the effect of little bubbles going through. And so I spritzed it in a spray bottle with some rubbing alcohol, and you can see that it created these little white bubbles that, you would think would be down in the ocean naturally, as the creatures in the ocean breathe, fish, etc. And it created that really cool effect that I really love. So that is now done. I think it's pretty well dry, and we're going to move on to the next step. I'm going to trim the Yupo paper because I want some of that green, since we have that there, to be showing through. So I am going to trim that down to 6.5. And I'm going to take a half off of the top, or actually I like the top. I think I'm going to take it off of the bottom and bring that down to 4.5. There we go. And definitely save your scraps, because you never know when scraps like this can come in handy in another project. Okay, so now that I have that done, I want to add in a little bit of an ocean floor down the bottom here. And I want it to have some texture, so I'm going to use some grit paste. If you haven't used grit paste, it's just exactly what you would expect based on the name. It's just a very gritty paste. And you can put it right onto your, either... if you have a glass work surface like I do, you can put it right on there, or you can put it like, you could even put it on to like a piece of paper, whatever it is that you use. And you don't need a ton of it, because we're only going to have a little of a floor, because I mostly want it to be water. But there I have the grit paste, and I am going to mix some ink into it to turn it into a brown color. So in order to do that, I am going to go ahead and just put some, this is the Distress Ink Vintage Photo. I am just going to go ahead and stamp that down onto my glass. And then I'm just going to pick up that grit paste, put it over here, and mix it in. Spread it around. And we can always add some more of the brown if we need to, but just let that spread. I don't want it to be too dark, which is why I chose the Vintage Photo, because it's a lighter brown. Let's see. You may want to go a little darker though, so let's finish mixing with the ink we have there and see how that looks. That may actually be okay, because like I said, I don't want a ton of color. I think what I'll do to go ahead and darken that up just a little bit is take a brown spray ink that I have and just put some drops of that down there to get that darkened up. I think that'll do the trick between those two. Wipe that handle so I don't get that ink all over. And spread that. There we go. Yeah, that added a little bit more to it. And truth be told, can always go over it with a paintbrush too once it's down on the card base. So I am going to go ahead and start with this, and I want to get it onto the back of the palette knife, and I didn't cut it down to size. Okay, so now we're just gonna, on the back of the palette knife, take that, and I don't want to put a ton. I just want to make the indication of a sandy floor down the bottom. So we're just gonna spread that just like that. You don't want it to be too thick. Just want the indication that it's there. Because we're going to incorporate, or I'm going to incorporate another part onto this ocean floor that's going to be pretty cool, I think. So this is definitely a fun ocean scene. Lots of color, which I love. And you don't want it to be like, you know, a straight line by any means, because let's face it, it's not a straight line down there on the ocean floor. There we go. Perfect. I love it. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cut this set of rocks out of the scene here. And so I'm going to fussy cut them, and I want to glue them in so that they're going to be over in the corner at the bottom of my ocean floor. So I cut them out, and I'm just doing some additional trimming to go ahead and get rid of any extra white space. Make sure that they're going to align there nicely the way I'd like them, and it looks like they will. So I'm going ahead and just putting some glue onto the back, and then just gluing them down. And they're set into space, and they look great. There's a little bit of space there that I'm going to fill in. I'm going to take some grit paste and go ahead and fill in that little gap leading up to that set of rocks. And it's okay if it's not colored with the brown ink. I'm actually going to add some additional color into both this area and the ocean floor to blend it all together and get it just a little bit darker than what it is right now. So I'm just carefully filling that in and then moving it down and blending it into the floor. Once that's dry, I'm going to take my Vintage Photo Distress ink and a brush, and I'm just going to lightly coat and pounce on the area to go ahead and get just a little bit more color in there and blend that all in together. I do that until I'm happy with how that looks. That looks about right. Happy with it. Notice that none of that grit paste came off on my brush, which is good. That meant it was dry. I then take a gray marker. I'm using a very light, warm gray. And I'm just going to lightly fill in down where the sand and the rocks meet, just to blend it in a little bit and give it a little bit more of a natural shading. Just pouncing the marker and blending it around. Adding that additional shading of that rock coming out over the sand. You can go ahead and fill in any areas that you'd like to get it to look just the way you want it. I have all of my stickers and pieces fussy cut out. And for the wings, I want to do something to give them a little bit more texture and to make them stand out a little bit more. And so I thought it would be cool to take a piece of organza, and I have an white organza bag, to cut it and to glue it over the wings to kind of make them look as if they're an actual set of wings. I take my glue press and I add some glue around the edges of the butterfly wings, and also add a little bit of glue in the middle, and then press the piece of organza down onto the wings, and also use a rag to make sure that any glue that soaks out, comes out from underneath will not cause it to glue down to the paper that I'm using to catch it. Once I have the organza on both sets of wings, I take my scissors and I trim off the excess. With the wings all set, I can now start to glue them onto the figures and start to compose the scene. I add some glue onto the back and then stick them down onto the back of the mermaid. I know where I want her to sit on the rock, and I want to align them to make sure that they look okay in regards to her body and to her head, and they do. I like the way that looks. I then start to go ahead and glue down the set of wings onto the second mermaid and line it up so that they're touching around her shoulders and press her down. Next, I'm going to take a Nouveau Shimmer pen and add just a little bit of glitter onto the tail of each mermaid. It's just going to make it shine and shimmer a bit, as if water is glistening off of the scales. First one's done, then I do the second mermaid. It also helps to brighten up the colors of their tails as well. All the pieces are ready to go, so I use some double-sided tape to go ahead and adhere down my card panel to the card base. I'm actually going to use both double-sided tape as well as some craft glue. And the reason why I do that is I like the use of both to make sure that there's a good strong bond to the card base, but also the craft glue allows for a little bit of wiggle room once you place the card panel down. In case you're not happy with it, you can move it around a bit, whereas with the double-sided tape only, it pretty much sticks right away. I just make sure that it's centered and that I like it. And overall, I'm really happy with it. I press it down, and I think that the card panel looks really nice against that green glitter cardstock. And I just use a rag to wipe away any glue. I finished gluing down all the pieces and then chose my sentiment and am going ahead and stamping it in black ink down onto the card panel. It looked good the first time, but I wanted to make sure that it was dark since the card panel is kind of a darker background. So I stamped it a second time and was very happy with the overall result of the stamping. The last step I'm going to do is to take some of these sparkly gems and put them down onto the card. I'm going to use 3, and I'm going to arrange them to make it look like bubbles coming up from the seahorse. Press them down, and there we have it, the finished card. I'm really happy with the overall results. It's really bold and colorful and fun. I hope you enjoyed watching. Until next time, be well.